Hi, I'm Ray Young. I'm Vice President of Education for the Sarasota Sister Cities Association, and our association is dedicated to peace and understanding in the world. And today what I want to do is start a series of lectures about the history of our Sarasota Sister Cities organization. Today I'll be talking about a selection of our sister cities and the administration of the Sister Cities Association of Sarasota. And then in the following lectures I'll talk about innovation awards and about specific sister cities. So you could select which lecture you're interested in. In lecture 2 it will be on Perpignan and Telman. The third one will be Dunfermline and Xiamen. The fourth, Treviso, Merida, and Rapperswil-Jona. And finally, additional community activities of our Sister Cities Association of Sarasota. Now, the origin of our sister cities was developed by President Dwight Eisenhower, who we all know was the commander-in-chief of the Allied forces in World War II. And he stated that I served as general in the greatest military force in the world and been the president of the most powerful nation, but I've been unsuccessful in achieving international peace and understanding. So he proposed this people-to-people program, a program of citizen diplomacy. Now I want to talk about the development of the National Sister Cities program that came out of President Eisenhower's people-to-people program, which he established in 1957. The major part of my lecture will be on the Sarasota Sister Cities Association. But in 1961, President Kennedy appointed Eisenhower to actually head the people-to-people program. Now, the initial program involved mainly sister cities with Europe in their recovery period after World War II. But in 1961, President Kennedy wrote a document to have it broadened to the worldwide organization, which it is today. It became so popular that they established a Sister Cities International national office in Washington, D.C., and they oversee the program, which has grown quite large. And they give out awards each year, which I'll talk about in the next lecture. But now in 2017, there's over 2,000 cities partnerships from America with 137 countries around the world. Our mission and objectives are to foster peace and develop respect and understanding and cooperation through this idea of citizen diplomacy. People to people, people carve the path to peace, and this is established or accomplished through international exchanges in areas of culture, education, tourism, business, and government. Many people ask about how we select our sister cities here in Sarasota. And we have these guidelines. They're not strict rules, but they're guidelines. The sister city should have a similar character as Sarasota in terms of culture, education, arts, tourism, and climate. We want additional community sponsorship. We need a broader base to establish these sister cities. For example, our sister city in Perpignan, France, we have the alliance partner with Alliance Française here in Sarasota. We need a dedicated lead person with a supporting committee, and this lead person for each sister city is called the city director, and they are the real workforce establishing the programs between our sister cities. And finally, we want evidence of a long-term relationship. We don't want it to be a one-shot deal because a lot of work goes into establishing these sister cities. I want to talk about the history in terms of the various presidents of the Sister Cities Association. And we'll first start with the early development. We established our first sister city in 1963 with Santo Domingo. And this was established by the work of Dallas Dort, who was president for 4 years, and involved the twinning with Santo Domingo. And he worked with a group of businessmen, government people, and the local Kiwanis Club, which had some interactions with Santo Domingo previously. A street was named in Santo Domingo for Sarasota, called Avenida Sarasota, and there's one here in Sarasota out by the Van Wezel called the Plaza Santo Domingo, and you may look for that if you're out there sometime. Now, Dallas Dort was heavily involved with community activities, including being a trustee for the New College of Florida. And he's shown here in a picture with the president of New College, John Elmendorf. Now, I'll mention John Elmendorf's wife, Mary Elmendorf, later. It's come full circle 50 years later. with her winning our prestigious One World Award. We'll talk about that in the last presentation. But Dallas Dort, the president of the Sister Cities, was very much involved with the community, and there's even a residence hall in New College called the Dallas and Elizabeth Dort Residence Hall. Unfortunately, Dallas passed away in 2004 at 96 years old. Then the next president was Donald Spivey, and he was president for 7 years, starting in 1968. And during that time, we won a People to People Award from the national organization related to our work with Santo Domingo. In 1976, Wells Permort became president, and he served as our longest serving president for 10 years. And we had a number of exchanges. For example, the Sarasota High School band went to Santo Domingo during his tenure. And there was a Tri-City baseball tournament that he established between Sarasota, Santo Domingo, and Hamilton, Ontario. And we were having continual interactions with Hamilton, Ontario. Then in 1989, Julio Clare became president, and he was president for 2 years. And during his tenure, Hamilton, Ontario actually became a official sister city in 1990. And we started exchanges with them. The Sarasota Ballet performed in Hamilton in 1991, and they were accompanied by our mayor, Fred Atkins. Later, we had news anchor exchanges with Hamilton between the two cities with our news anchors in 1999. And then as an aid, we sent a fire truck to Santo Domingo in 1990 also. And this was done through the work of actually the assistance of the Navy. The truck was shipped by a local moving company down to Miami and then sent over to Santo Domingo. And that was a very active program in those years. Then in 1992, Asim Mohammed assumed the presidency, and he was actually a city engineer, and he served for a couple of years. And then let's start our recent development. As I've mentioned, I separated into our early history and now our more recent history. In this recent development, in 1994, Hope Burns became president, and she was president for 7 years. And this ushered in a period of rapid expansion, as you can see. Now, Hope Burns, I've shown on the right, is also a soprano singer, and she performed as a representative of our sister city during the signing of our Chinese sister city, which I'll mention shortly. During her tenure, Vladimir, Russia became a sister city in 1994, Perpignan, France in the same year, and then Telman, Israel in 1999 with a lot of work by the next president, Linda Rosenbluth. And we continued during her tenure with our economic aid to Santo Domingo. In 1995, we sent medical and school equipment and supplies. They had particularly after a severe hurricane, actually 5 airplanes were utilized to ship the material to Santo Domingo as a gratis aid program from our Sarasota sister cities. And then also during her tenure, we established the Millenial Sister City Tree Walk in 1999, which I'll show in a minute. Then in 2001, Linda Roosevelt became president, and she served for 4 years. As I mentioned earlier, she was heavily involved with the establishment of our sister city of Telman, Israel. And also Dunfermline, Scotland came on as a sister city in 2002. She's also a recipient of our One World Award, which I'll mention in my last presentation. Then in 2005, Bill Wallace became president, and he served for 3 years. And Bill was very instrumental in establishing our Dunfermline sister city previously under Linda Rosenbluth's administration. And he's very proud of his Scottish heritage, and you can often see him in his kilt around town. And during his tenure, Treviso became a sister city in 2007, as well as Xiamen, China. He also served as city director for Dunfermline for a number of years. He was our vice president for fundraising. He's been with the organization for over 15 years. And he established our One World Award event and gala, which I'll mention again in our last lecture. Then in 2008, Karla Ramah became president, serving for 3 years. Karla was actively working as a realtor at the time. She won the Realtor of the Year award in Sarasota, so she had to split her time between our Sister Cities Association and her work job, which she did exceptional. And during her tenure, married a Mexico, became another of our sister cities in 2010. And she also served as our Vice President for Economic Development in previous years. Tom Halbert became president in 2011, serving for 2 years. He was also our Vice President for Communications and Public Relations and did a lot of work establishing our initial web presence on the internet. He was also our Vice President for Membership. Tom was very helpful during the years, during his tenure we had a financial crisis, and he dedicated a lot of his personal time to bringing us around financially. Then in 2013, Beth Hollinger became our president, serving for 3 years. And we brought on Rapperswil-Jona, Switzerland, as a friendship city. And the idea of a friendship city is that you come on for a couple of years, see how it works out, and then if it works out, it becomes a sister city, which it did in 2017. Beth is originally from the area, a true Southern girl, as she refers to it. She came on as our board secretary, but we soon realized that she had talents way beyond having worked with the suburban mayors of Chicago for 20 years. And so we asked her to be our president. She also served as our vice president for economic development in later years. We awarded a series of plaques to each of our past presidents who were available to attend, and shown here is the nice plaques we awarded to each of them at our luncheon in 2017. Our current Sarasota Sister Cities president is Mariana Janswecki. She came on board in 2016, is currently our Sister City president in 2017-18 period. And during that time, we recently brought on Rapperswil-Jona, Switzerland, as an official sister city with the vote by the commissioners in 2017. So Rapperswil-Jona is now our official sister city, and we hope to have the signing in Rapperswil next year at their celebration in Switzerland. Okay, now our active sister cities. Santo Domingo is on an emeritus status, and Hamilton has not been active for a few years. But our currently active sister cities are Perpignan, France, Thelma in Israel, Dunfermline, Scotland, Treviso, Italy, Xiamen, China, Vladimir, Russia, Merida, Mexico, and Rapperswil-Jona, Switzerland. And what I will do in the following lectures is concentrate on each of these sister cities, as I mentioned previously. This is our organizational chart currently for the sister cities. We have our president, and the secretary and treasurer, of course, and then we have a vice president for various functions. As I mentioned, I'm the vice president for education, but we have one for membership, community relations, fundraising, business and economic development, arts and culture, and sports. And then we have a city director, as I mentioned, for each of our cities that I showed previously, as well as an assistant city director. So that's how we're organized. It's a group of about 20 people, 24 people, a lot of volunteers, and you must note that it's an all-volunteer organization. We do receive some funds for the city, and we're supported by the city, but we are not part of the city program. But each of our new sister cities must be approved by the mayor and city council, which we just did with Rapperswil-Jona. Okay, this is a picture of our board of directors just recently elected. It's a mix of people from various parts of the world, Switzerland and Netherlands and Germany, Italy, and so we have a good representation around the world, and a lot of languages are spoken. This is our office building. We have an office in the Federal Building on Orange and Ringling Avenues. It's a very nice facility, and as I mentioned, we're supported by the government, but not part of the government. So this has been an exceptional experience, and this is where we greet our visitors. I mentioned that we have a Sister Cities Millenial Tree Walk, and it's recently been upgraded. And what we do is we plant a tree for each of our new sister cities. And this is out on City Island, which is north of O'Leary's. It's a very pleasant walk to go through, and we have a plaque for each of our sister cities. And we've noticed that when our delegations come in from each of our sister cities, we take them on the walk, and they're very proud to have a presence in our sister cities. That completes my presentation today, and next time I'll be talking about innovation awards, and I'll talk about our sister cities of Perpignan, France, and Telman, Israel. Thank you.